Yo, welcome to Thor's DragonShip, everybody. And you notice today Thor's not here, unfortunately. He'll be here shortly. I'm your co-host, Glenn Laurence. I am accompanied by Huds, Phil Foster, Mark Daniels from Mark Inspiration, and Andre. And today we are going to talk about hypergamy being your ally. Say what? I said it again. Hypergamy is your ally. There's so many conversations, and we hear guys saying, "Oh, women are hypergamous. Women are just hypergamous," and it comes off as women's hypergamy is a negative thing. But we are here to tell you today, gentlemen, no, women's hypergamy is your friend, and how it benefits you. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with Huds. Introduce yourself. Good morning. All the other fine jazzy shit. Go ahead.
You got it, my man. So happy to be here again. One thing I want to point out for everybody: we're doing something new with the DragonShip. So if you see on the bottom the ticker, if you do donations, if you want to send donations, because we're not yet monetized with super chats, if you send it to $$ the Hudsman, I'll be distributing that across everybody. Okay. So just wanted to put that out there, let everybody know we're doing something new. And it also, YouTube doesn't take a 30% of it, which is also very nice. So yeah, Huds, I'm a dating coach. Work with guys navigating the modern dating landscape. It's changed a lot, and especially people became socially inept after our little pandemic stint in 2020. So how do you navigate that now? And that's exactly what I do with men. So that's about it for me. Turn it over to Phil.
What's going on, guys? My name is Phil Foster. Always great to be here on the DragonShip with this panel. Thor, you're sadly missed today. If you're watching it, man, I hope you're having a great day doing you. Today's topic is an epic piece of information if you're a male or if you're a female for that matter. The big thing is it's time to quit crying and start learning about why hypergamy is definitely your friend. What I do is I'm all into fitness, man. I've got the philfosterfitness.com, do the training app. I got supplement lines, hormones. I'm a one-stop shop for your fitness needs. Advice, if you're going outside in the dark arts, whatever it might be, just let me know, man. Hit me up on socials at philfoster_. I'm going to pass that on to Mark Daniels.
Thanks, Phil. My name is Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. You can check me out on IG at Mark's Inspiration. Got a couple books on Amazon. Check those out. We have a podcast every Saturday night at 6 p.m. But tonight we're not having it because we're going to the fights down in St. Charles. So we may go live from there for a little while. We'll see what happens. Put out a video almost every day on YouTube, Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. Glad to be here to talk about this because so many people look at this as a bad thing or even a new thing, like it's something they just started talking about, but it's always been. So this is nothing new, and it can help a man become more of what he desires to be and what he needs to be if used in that manner. And I will pass it on to Andre.
Hey guys, I'm Andre DeLeon. I use NLP and hypnosis to get guys over their approaching anxiety or whatever plateau, whatever part of the game you're at, whatever you're leveling up. If you're working with Glenn, or you're working with Phil, you're working with Huds, you're working with Mark, or even Thor, our alpha guy. Go to the next level, use the mind, get your mind right, level up. And that is the advantage of hypergamy, is to make you a better man.
Yeah, so with that, you guys, let's dive right into this. All right. So Phil, you got the definition of hypergamy up.
100%, man. 100%. You ready?
Let's do it. Hop into it.
Right here. Hypergamy is a selected for survival mechanism. A selected for survival mechanism. The theory is more like this. And it says, from what I have read, hypergamy is a woman's natural preference for a higher status male that is higher status than herself and also higher status than the other men in her field of vision, and also perhaps higher status than the men she has known in the past, and even higher status than most men she can personally imagine meeting.
So basically, women don't date beneath them.
Never.
All right. And they don't necessarily date across from them or equal. They will, but they won't. They won't. They would rather date a guy that's more superior to them, meaning he has the looks, he has the charisma, he has the social status. Okay. He is someone that other people view as valuable, or as, it's basically the guy that every guy wants to be, and the girl that every guy, the guy that every girl wants to bang. That's the woman that guys or women naturally want because of their hypergamous nature. Well, what do you say to a guy that goes, well, shit, I'm only like a 3 on the SMV, like, and my money's not right, hypergamy is the reason why I can't get laid. Guys tend to blame hypergamy for their woes. And is it really their woes is women's fault?
No, they need to level up. Any man can improve himself. There's always room for improvement. You've heard the old saying, the biggest room in my house is the room for improvement. So I think it's an excuse for people to be lazy and just not do the work.
Mark, I think you just broke. Like literally, you just literally threw like 50-pound gold bullion bars at YouTube right there with that statement. Say that one more time. Say what you just said one more time.
Which one? The biggest room for the biggest room in my house is a room for improvement. Most people are lazy. They don't want to do the work. So they use that as an excuse. That's all it is. It's a lame excuse. And that probably pisses some people off. But if it pisses them off, that's the truth about themselves they don't want to accept.
Man, I'm telling you right there. That is like, dude, that wisdom just like, it's like hit like a comet, dude. That's serious, man.
That was
the biggest room for improvement. That's killer, man.
So I got a video clip here of Rollo talking about hypergamy. So let me share that with you guys real quick. And then we're only gonna watch a little bit of it because it's like a 2-hour video, but we'll watch a little bit of it and go from there.
This is kind of like when you're in high school and they start the film.
Yeah, you guys, sit down.
Pay attention.
Get your notes out.
Right. Lie on the beta bucks provisioning side of things. And they think that that's the more direct route. It's easier to figure that out than it is to figure out the other side. So it's, well, I've got a good job. I love my mom. I like puppy dogs. I went to school for 4 years. I did all these great things. And now I'm 30 years old and I'm looking for a long woman to settle down with. You will find somebody at that point. But I don't think that we tend to consider hypergamy from both sides. There's two sides to hypergamy. It is the dualistic nature of hypergamy, which is alpha seed and beta need. And that, I think, is where we need to start, because that's a really big misconception, is guys only focus on one side. So when I watch, whenever I see Jordan Peterson talk about hypergamy, that's all he talks about. And the reason for that, I think, is because he's never had an experience with the opposite side, with the alpha seed side of things, because he's a success story when it comes to beta idealistic sort of Pollyanna understanding of high school sweethearts and but like focusing and fixating on one woman, like the soulmate myth.
That's really fascinating. That he mentions that there's two sides of hypergamy. There is the alpha fuck side, and there is the beta buck side. So you got the guy, and women will hit hypergamy and experience hypergamy on both sides. In their younger years, they're looking for that alpha fuck, right? They're looking for that hot Chad. They're looking for Phil Foster in his 20s. Okay. If you guys don't know, Phil Foster just had a birthday. Same with Huds. If you guys didn't know, Phil is a Huds dad, and Phil,
no. we share a birthday.
I see the family resemblance there.
Yesterday was both of our birthdays, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, real savages.
but women have two sides of hypergamy. In their younger years, they're looking for that alpha fucks. They're looking for that hot chat in the phone cannon party. They're not necessarily looking for the guy that's going to provide and provide them the lifestyle, whatever they want. They're looking for the sexiest guy to get with, right? But then when they hit the wall, when they get a little older, they're like, wait a minute, my sexual market value is not what it used to be. I need to find a good guy. I need to find the nice guy that's going to provide for me, that wants to be a good, loyal husband. And guys, women actually want to find that both of those things, both of those qualities in the same guy. But realistically, it's very hard to find both the alpha Chad and the beta buck side of hypergamy in the same guy. But how can
you can't, one thing I want to point out, you can't blame her for like wanting to be with that type of exciting guy, foam cannon type of guy, whatever. Because if you think about it, if she has a son, wouldn't she want that son to live that type of lifestyle as well? To be that man that women really want to be with, really want to sleep with, to continue the offspring. So that's just reality. You got to deal with it. And as you were saying, is being both. If you can be both, that's when it becomes a game changer.
And what's the difference between that and the men wanting the Madonna and the whore? It's the same thing. It's like there's a girl you want to take home to your family and have a family with. Then there's that hot bitch that you see that you just want to take her to the bedroom. And, well, you can use your imagination.
Play with Legos?
Oh, yeah, play with Legos.
Tic-tac-toe? I play Naked Twister.
Let me go off what Huds said. Some of my clientele, some of the ladies, my older female friends that are married and have kids that are men or young boys that are becoming men, and they said, Andre, you shouldn't be teaching what you're teaching. I go, so do you want your boys to date guys and they're heterosexuals? Do you want your sons not to spawn? Do you want to be a grandmother? And guess what? Half of those women are liberals, and guess what? They're like, oh, they're actually thinking about paying me to train their sons now that are in their 18 to 25 to do this stuff because they want to be grandmothers. So that just to go on, just another perspective.
That's an interesting one. I had not even thought about that. That's a great rebuttal when it's like you're teaching men like how to be womanizers, blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, do you want to have grandkids? Do you want to be a grandmother? Because if not,
it's another frame, baby.
I like that.
Here's a question, you guys. We talk about it. How is hypergamy your ally? How is women's hypergamy your ally? And I want the panel to go, and then I will chime in and give my opinion. Let's start from the bottom. Andre.
Yeah, this is when I was having problems like when I was in my early 19 and 20, I was like, why aren't girls going out with me? Well, because I was a doormat. And so what I did is I started the areas of my life that I had confidence in, and basically like building a muscle. That's where in those environments, like when I was in the restaurant business, I could get a girl attracted to me. Once I stepped outside of it, socially, I got nothing. So I started to ask the question, why is this stuff? Why am I not getting girls? What's going on? How do I need to? And then I asked the most important question, how can I get girls? How can I get better? And then I said, it has to be across the board. That's when I went back to working out when I could. That's when I was trying to become a manager instead of being a busboy or a waiter. How do I become a bartender? Because I knew the bartenders were getting all the girls. And so my whole thing was like, okay. And then I just threw my life at learning this stuff when I turned 20, at the end, almost 21, where I just threw my life at learning how to get women. But that was that whole thing is the inside, like Glenn and Phil, you talk about leveling it up. And I just, how in all the areas of my life, how do I get better? And each area of my life I got better, the women started to come to me because I was attractive to them. So,
and that's the thing. It's like you pointed out something that a lot of guys don't know. It's like you could be alpha in a situation, like you could be the guy at work But if you're not the guy anywhere else, you're only the guy at work. And there's a lot of guys out there that are alpha as hell at work or in their social group. But when as soon as they step out of that social group or step out of that work setting, they're not the alpha, or they're not the guy, because it's small, it's local, right? It's a controlled environment that you're this guy in, and it could be also because of your work, your job title. You know, you may have, like, as a manager, you're going to be able to bang whoever you want. You're going to have more pull with people, more attraction with people because of your position. Or if you're the bartender, you're the guy serving drinks. You know, everybody likes the guy serving drinks. So, yeah, it could be situational, but you have to be able to break out of that situational setting and be able to grow and level yourself up to where you're that guy all the time in every setting, you know. Mark Daniels, how is hypergamy, beneficial to men?
Well, I think there's, like you said, there's two sides to that. I've been fortunate enough to experience, or unfortunate enough to experience, both sides. I experienced the alpha side, the alpha seed side, so I was about 30. And then I tried to do what I thought was the proper thing to do, which was be a husband and a father and all that. And then I experienced the beta side of it, where I got run through the divorce courts and wrung out. But for all that, if I hadn't gone through all that, I wouldn't be able to help people as I am today, because I have experience on both sides of that. So each time it helped me to level up. I used my first experience when I went through the last part of it on the beta side, losing everything 2 or 3 times, to learn from that. So I have a well-rounded, how do I say, idea of how it works and what it means, and I could share that with people. So the benefit of it is, if you don't walk the walk, you're going to get burnt by a girl. If you don't understand it, you're going to get burnt. Now, if you're a man, you get your ass back up and you look at yourself and say, hey, what did I do? What do I need to change? You start searching. There's nothing like pain and discomfort and misery and depression to make a man want to grow. Now, I'm always learning, always reading, always searching, but nothing like I do when I'm in emotional pain. What do you do with that? So that emotional pain is a gift, and that's what you're going to get if you deal with the hypergamous nature of a woman and you don't understand it. But most guys want to blame, so they're not going to look at themselves. It's always the bitches. Look at all the YouTube channels where these guys get how many followers because they badmouth women. They're all this, they're all that, well, they could say the same thing about men. They're women, they are what they are, they're not good or bad. It's your thinking that makes it so. How are you going to deal with it? Accept them for how they are, the hypergamous nature, and then you become the man, as was it Phil or one of you said, that all or Glenn said, all men want to be like and all women want to be with. Well, that's, of course, that's an idealistic endeavor, but that's the goal to shoot for, but not for other people, but for yourself. I think it motivates you because, as I said, in the bottom line, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't understand it, you're going to get burnt by it. And as you all know, if you touch a hot stove, you get burned. You're probably not going to do it again, and you're going to learn something about that stove, how it works, before you try to use it the next time.
Definitely. Phil, before we go any further, I want to highlight this comment again. Joanna was on a podcast or stream last night with Phil or with Huds and I.
Oh, I love this person.
We were on the block with Jen last night, and we were talking about all this stuff. But Phil, what do you think about this comment here?
She says right here, said, peace, guys. Hypergamy is good for men because it allows the woman to rest in her feminine energy, which is what men ultimately desire in a woman. He wants feminine energy. Well, when it comes to hypergamy, I'm going to say this. When you are in a position kind of like what Mark was talking about of going through some serious pain, and that's how most people find the red pill is they suffer. Okay. They go through something extremely traumatic, whether it's divorce, whether it's, the one that got away or whatever that might be. They go through something painful, finding that feminine energy in a woman. Here's the deal. If you're a masculine dude, that's just going to naturally come out in a woman. Okay. So that to me doesn't necessarily pertain to hypergamy in a sense. I would say that hypergamous nature of a woman is real simple. She wants the best, and I mean the absolute best that she can lock down, period. She wants somebody that's going to give her the best seed, shelter her, protect her, and do all those other things. And so as a woman ages, she goes away from that alpha seed, the foam cannon guy that you guys keep talking about, to the more beta bucks guy, right? And I think that when women hit a certain age in their life, their ideals change, but they still pine, kind of like what Rollo always talks about. He's always talking about how a woman will pine for that one that got away. Let me tell you something. You can level yourself up. And if you have a woman that's already been widowed by another alpha, you're never, ever, ever, ever going to crack that code with her, man. I don't care how big your cock is. I don't care how.
I'll push back on that. Unless you become that alpha.
Yeah, I agree with that. You can be that alpha, but here's the thing. If she's still hung on that guy in the back of her hind mind, in the back of her brain back there, I think that it's going to be a tough sell in the long run. You might see her laterally jump somewhere else to see if the grass is greener on the other side. It's amazing to me when you start dealing and thinking about hypergamy and why women do what they do. It's pure and simple. Dudes, literally, I think we were all created as alpha when we're young, except for some people that, they just struggle. Okay. But most young guys, we're just shut down as young men, period. That alpha energy is retarded, some more than others. And what I mean by retarded is it's turned down. You know what I mean? Like a timing retarder eliminator on a race car. It turns it down. I think that young men, when they come up, depending on how they were raised, is that calibration to whether they're either going to be alpha or they're going to have that alpha seed that she's going to desire and want. If he has the genetics, if he has the actual looks and the actual talent with his tongue, and what I mean by that is the way he speaks, all of those things she's calculating and ticking in her mind. If you are an individual that is gone through some pain and you realize, hey, I've done some pretty beta shit, and we all have, I don't give a rat's ass who you are or what you say. You felt pain if you're a fucking man, period. You've made mistakes. That's why I do this panel. That's why I'm friends with all these guys. That's why I listen to these guys. That's why I read what I read and I associate with who I associate with, because let me tell you something. I felt the pain before, man. And
so going on, like, I want to ask a question though. Let's bring us back to this. Is like, oh my God, look who we have. It looks like we have.
He's ready to go.
The O Father here.
Just gotta wait for him to get his camera set up and everything. I wanted to touch on his comment that he had made here, which I find interesting. When you think about hypergamy and you think about the cycles that women go through, yes, it totally makes sense. Know when to be that alpha Chad, and then know when to be a little bit softer and add some of that comfort. It's very, very interesting, because otherwise, if you're doing things at the wrong time, you can really mess some shit up. Like I just had an example last night where I could just tell, and I'm not paying attention to the cycle, but I could just tell. My girl ended up like knocking something over late last night and was like super frustrated and went just like storm out of the room, and I just like grabbed her and pulled her over and said like, "Hey, what's going on? You okay?" Like, there's sometimes you need to throw in comfort because that's the type of guy she's looking for at that time. And then other times you need to be that, Giga Chad who's ripping off her clothes when you're coming home from work. So it's something interesting to think about.
Well, then Huds, you actually are speaking to something what Joanna was saying right here. While society paints hypergamy as being money driven, being cared for is what allows a woman to tap the most into their nurturing side, pop culture, podcast society. So that's what you kind of did. Like you being able to stop and be like, hey, you're showing concern for her. You're caring for her. What's going on? That allowed you, her to tap more into you. Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly what Viking Paradigm is saying here. Have the right tool for the right job.
Exactly.
At the right time.
And now, without further ado, the God of Thunder is in the building.
Well, okay, guys, thank you, man. I'm just a guest today. Look at you guys go. This is fantastic on the Dragon Ship. Everything's dialed in. You guys look great. Happy birthday to two of our Drakars. And if you don't know what Drakars is, that's dragon. That's the generals on the Dragon Ship. So happy birthday to you two good Drakars.
Thank you.
Yeah. How old are you, Huds? Did you get hair on your chest this time?
He's 12, teen.
I'm still working on the hair on the chest.
We'll get it squared away. Glenn, you just turned
Actually got
50,
some
man. How
crazy
you
hair on
doing?
the chest, but whatever.
Glenn just turned 50, right?
Phil just turned 50.
No, man, don't be adding it. Don't be adding them, man. Don't do me that way, bro.
I was having such a good time with Glenn the other day, and I mean, we were just clicking. We were just out riding bikes, and kind of the whole Sons of Anarchy thing, picking fights, chasing whirls, all that sort of stuff, right? And I was looking at this guy, definitely a peer, and then it dawns on me when we're bullshitting. Damn, just like my son. He's the same age as my oldest son, and I get along with my oldest son just like that. So, Glenn, I appreciate you spending the time to come and meet me. We'll get more of that in the future, man. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Definitely. Guess what I have found out, though, Thor? Rolo's going to be in Vegas.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we will, well, let's don't announce any dates, but we're going to go meet up with some guys. Definitely for sure. That'll be fan-fucking-tastic. And I liked your idea that you sent me. I'm in. So
yeah, awesome. Great.
I love the topic you guys got today. And I saw that you guys just kicked it off. I mean, your legs are pumping. You jumped into the deep end. You're hitting it on all oars. Hypergamy is fascinating conversation that is perennial, because it is nature's way of perpetuating the species and ensuring survival of the fittest. And there's so many misconceptions about this being such an enemy, and it's not. But when you think about it, and you're on the lower end of the struggle, and you don't understand why your beta game's not working, or you're struggling communicating with women, you need to understand what their sexual strategy is. And by asking a woman, she won't be able to vocalize it to you. She can demonstrate it to you. And once you understand this, you guys will start to understand her subcommunication. It's like a superpower. It's like you were just given X-ray vision when you understand that every woman has this inbuilt. However, she does have a logical mind to some extent. Emotions, feelings first, then emotions, or instincts, feelings, emotions, then logic and rationality. It is a choice. And they can make that choice, especially when they understand consequences and accountability, which the last 40 years, accountability has been taken away from them. Most unfortunately, I think that's probably the number one thing, is when we start teaching women their own accountability for being women, it will definitely improve the relationships between men and women. And
it's funny that you bring that up. It's funny you bring that up, because we were on a panel last night, Huds and I was, and Joanna, she's in the chat because she loved our conversation last night. She said something in there that was really profound about women accountability. And I really don't want to misquote her. And if she's still in the chat, I'd love for her to type it up. But she said, from the beginning, women are not going to be accountable. Like, she basically said women will not be accountable. So guys need to stop thinking basically.
Well, they will, but they have to understand
what naturally
the benefit is for them, so that not naturally.
Yeah.
So that it benefits if it benefits their solipsism, they'll be accountable. And that's the beauty of hypergamy too for us, because I'll talk on this a little bit later, but it forces us, or at least when we learn this, we assume as men, our own accountability to use this as a ally, so to speak, or leverage, is we understand our burden of performance in this realm. One of the reasons I said this is an ally, because a woman has a monthly cycle as part of the reproductive system. This is affected by instinct, feelings, and it changes. So this is why a woman could want that provider and security. And she can even want that at certain times more than she does the alpha. But when the pool boy is cleaning the pool, after she secured those resources and things look good, nature will take its course if the man is not fulfilling his burden of performance on time with the right tools.
Now, here's a question for Thor and for the rest of the panel. So let's say you're a guy and you hear about this. Oh, I want to get women, I need to level up. Or I want to save my girlfriend from leaving me, I need to level up. And they start doing all this things, the leveling up, and the girl leaves. Or he doesn't get the girl that he likes. And they're like, well, hypergamy is bullshit. I did everything. I leveled up. Why did I fail?
Women always have the trump card.
Well, wouldn't you see that he was not operating in his frame? He was operating in her frame. He was trying to level up for her.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, because that's something like sometimes your women, like I know for a fact that some women do this, is when they're trying to do some mate guarding, they'll like pick out clothes for you that make you look like a dumbass. All to make you not as attractive to other girls. So there's certain things like that, and you're right. It's operating out of his own frame, operating in her frame, and if you let the woman lead in that way, and it's just, you know, it's an unfortunate reality, and it's not that, you know, women bad, man good, but women tend to lead you to the slaughterhouse when you put them in charge of something as important as a relationship.
And Huds, that's crazy, because I've witnessed it with guys in my own family as well. That I don't believe the women actually consciously make that decision, other than they're doing it because they see him as desirable. One of her girlfriends said, "Oh, I wish I had a husband like you." Boom, it's get this stupid clothes and everything else to kind of put up a barrier there without consciously thinking. I think it's that low a level of response.
Now, so would you guys think that it's better off for the guy? And this is what I say. When you're leveling up, you're not leveling up for her. You're not leveling up to get her. You're leveling up for yourself. She is just a reward for your leveling up. She is a benefit. She's an added bonus. You're leveling up to better yourself off and become the best man that you could be. And she is just a reward for that.
Yeah. 100%. What I want to, you know what, Andre, go ahead.
No, that's the cause and effect. So when people say you're not in your frame, well, you have to be first. You have to get into the frame, no matter wherever you're starting when you're 13, 14 or whatever, as you develop as a man. You have to be there first. And Glenn is right. Then that's the reward. But then as Thor said, then once you're married, then you lose frame and she's trying to dress you like a dumbass. And that's the unconscious, what I call the unconscious response, because that is what the mate guarding is. And that's the cycle or the stages and phases. But you have to be there. And then once you're being that state of being, then you get, it's not, so I'm a little bit revert, modern society is for me to be a man, I have to have a Lamborghini first. You be the man, you make the money, then you get the Lambo, then you get the girls or whatever. But I have to be, that's when people talk about frame, but I don't hear a whole lot of guys talking about you have to be first and then you get all the rewards.
And Huds, that was such a good example. And you're right, Andre, the example of the clothes, but it goes beyond that. I've watched guys literally grow the worst beards in the world that have no self-care or precision. There's nothing being done there. Maybe not that, but I've even heard it so far as not only the scraggly ass beard that everybody hates, except she publicly says, I like it, but I like it, which is great. But yeah, that's the same sort of thing. I've even had names will remain anonymous, but a large beer belly has developed on this really handsome guy.
Hey,
and his wife likes it.
Oh, I don't have a wife. Okay,
nobody else did. It's like, dude, you're kind of getting pregnant here, you know? Oh no, it's a gas tank for a sex machine. Wife loves it. Wife publicly. Oh, I like it with him with that barrel. I like the girth. I can tell you where it ended though. Eventually she didn't like it, but there was a lot of that mate guarding sort of thing. It's actually quite prevalent. Yeah.
Here's a question, and this I'll say it. How is hypergamy your ally? And the reason why I think hypergamy is a man's benefit is this, because I don't want a woman that wants anybody else. I want her to see the quality and value in me. But if she's willing to get with anybody and she has no standards, then she doesn't appreciate the value that she has with you. So a woman being hypergamous is good. She wants the best quality. She wants the best that she could get. And if you are the best and you maintain yourself being the best, then by default, you are her best option. And if you maintain her best option, that's how hypergamy works for you. That's how you get to play it safe with hypergamy, is if you're constantly working on yourself and being the best version of you, you're minimizing the risk of her monkey branching somewhere else.
And
what do you guys say to that?
That directly answers kind of what Phil's asking here and what we've been talking about. Can hypergamy help a man to level up? And that's what it's all about. It's about constantly leveling up. When you think about it, as I said before, when you want to mate with somebody, you want to mate with an alpha, because you want to have your son to have potentially the best genes as possible. And you want to have little Jimmy down the road bagging Victoria's Secret models. That's just how you want it. So that's how women think. And whether it's conscious or just hindbrain, it makes sense. You want the best possible. So yes, hypergamy really is all about forcing a man to level up in their life in every way.
And if not, he doesn't get the opportunity to breed. I'll read a quote here to really tie that in for you, Glenn. Men are expected to perform. This is across all of society and by women by nature. Men are expected to perform, to be successful, to get the girl, to live a good life. Men must do, whether it's riding wheelies down the street on your motorcycle to get that cute girl's attention, or getting a doctorate degree to ensure personal success and future family. Men must perform. Women's arousal, attraction, desire, and love are rooted in that conditional performance. Remember how we were talking last week about how men and women love differently? The degree to which that performance meets or exceeds expectations is certainly subjective. It means it's variable. And the ease with which you can perform is also an issue, but you must perform. For men, there is no true rest from this performance. Women will never have the same prerequisites of performance for themselves for which they expect a man to have. Hypergamy demands a constant subliminal reconfirmation of a man's worthiness of her commitment to him. So there is never a parallel of experience for a woman. Women by design want a man who demonstrates dominion. They want to marry up. They want a guy who's taller, stronger, richer, has a higher social standing. They cannot help themselves. It's built in. Are there outliers? Not really. So that's why it's your ally, because it gives you understanding of the truth. And when you know that, you can leverage it to your own benefit. Or so to speak, you can be solipsistic with it. You make yourself your own mental point of origin. You understand that she is going to desire that alpha seed at some points, and you fulfill it as much as possible. She will reject alpha seed for beta need. And before anybody out there says, no, it's not true, look at all the incels. Before you say that, beta game works. Hence, lots of betas get laid, but they also consist of all the simps too, right? But they do, and they do because of that cyclical nature and that woman's ability to hold two concepts that seem opposed in their mind at the same time, and it doesn't seem contradictory to them. So you, as a man, in order to turn hypergamy into an ally, needs to recognize that there will be times where you need to exert a dominant masculine presence, and there'll be times where you need to be a comforting soul. And if you can do that at the right time, she's the ride or die chick, really. I mean, even the harshest guys with the most dominion, if they're always like that, she gets sick of it. She has to have a moment in time to go, oh, he's taking care of me, And then, there's those times where you got that animalistic, I don't care where we're at in the back of this McDonald's, man, clothes are starting to come off and things are going to happen because the heat is on. That's hypergamy. And that's why it's an ally. Got to learn to recognize it. It really puts a man who understands it in a position to go, thank God I have this understanding now of a woman's true nature, because it makes me very successful and I don't have to do as much work. Think of all the work these beta guys do. Think of the guy that's a white knight. Think of the guy that's doing sneaky fucker game. Holy shit. These guys have to have a lot going on. Think if they maneuvered themselves into self-improvement and just fulfilled the burden of performance, got themselves fit, understood how a woman behaves, why she acts the way. She can't explain it to him, but if he understands it, he'll see it. And he'll see it as clearly as day and night. He'll see the delineations between, oh, alpha need or alpha seed, beta need. And there's your superpower right there. That's why it's such a great ally to have in your pocket, is understanding of a woman's hypergamous nature. There's a lot of myths out there about it, like, hey, this is the red pill, man up. You have to do this, It's much more subtle than that. A woman can choose, always choose. She doesn't have to follow her hypergamy, but it's always there like a steady drip of that Chinese water torture on her.
So the best way for men to avoid problems with hypergamy is to always level up.
Yep.
Your life, from the moment you were born and to the day you die, you have an opportunity to improve and level up in all areas of life. And if you want to avoid dealing with hypergamy in the negative, because there's so much negative when we hear about women hypergamy, and it really comes down to guys not acknowledging that they need to level up. And it's almost like, the case of when a couple gets married and, they did everything to get to the altar, but once they got to the altar, they kind of let themselves go. It's kind of like the guy was alpha as, fuck before, but then after he got married, he just stops being that guy. Like, you have to constantly be the person you were, but also improve. You don't get to stop. There's no pause. There's no, okay, we got married. Now that's the finish line. No, the finish line is when you're dead.
That's
You
hard.
know what I love?
That's hard.
One thing I just want to throw in here. One thing that I love in that constant leveling up, because yes, a lot of guys, they tend to get married and think they hit the finish line. But one thing that I love is those times when we're out in public, whether it be with like a waitress or some random girl or whatever else that flirts with me in front of my lady. And then she says afterwards, like, "Oh, I hate that girl," like, blah, 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 like all that type of stuff, like that jealousy comes out. Nothing is better than that, because as jealous as she gets, and then when you give her a comfort test after, or not a comfort test, but like to give her comfort afterwards, grabbing her by the arm, pulling her in, and be like, I know I'm attractive, but I love you. It's absolutely fantastic.
Guys, I'll pose this back to you and let everybody answer, but hypergamy is an ally for men. It is not an ally for women. I'll just tell you, the truth of the matter is, women have to compete and they may think they're a higher sexual market value, but a lot of women think they can just go to the grocery store and find a high value, high SMV man. But most likely than not is that most of these high value men, they're married or they already got girlfriends. Why do you suppose that is? Because other women capitalized on that very, very quickly. That they have it worse than us here. And yet I can go on the Reddit and I can see a lot of guys, a huge push to say hypergamy is not real. And yet it's demonstrated even in nature, because, let's set everything aside, DNA being mixed and cross-mixed is what evolution is all about. It's very valuable to the species. And we're just talking about it now as we find out it actually exists even in monogamous relationships. Somewhere between 5 and 30% of all children born are not born to the father that the woman says they are. That demonstrates hypergamy. It's unrefutable, really, at that point. May not feel good to understand that. And it probably feels like a burden for the ladies, because now they know what they want and they don't want to settle. And that's got to be extremely hard because their survival seems like it depends on it. But for us men, we know it. Perform.
Yeah, and I want to throw a question to Mark. Like, you're a former boxer. Right. I mean, you kick your 18-year-old son's ass, in the ring. How do you see, like you constantly leveling up even at your age, and you see that, and do you teach your sons hypergamy in the ring? Like why, like the constant fight is important? Like, because in life, it's a constant fight. If you want to level up, you have to fight to level up. Nobody's going to give you your leveling up. You have to fight for it. So is there a metaphor or something you could say that's inspirational in the boxing analogy, like fighting and why it's leveling up is important?
Well, basically, what I teach them by is, of course, talk to them, but more truth is caught than taught. So I try to teach them more by example, because if what I do and what I say isn't congruent, it doesn't carry much weight. They know women's nature because I talk about it to them. We've discussed it at length. We work together. We spend a lot of time together, so we have a tendency to talk about that. But as far as the boxing goes, basically what that teaches them in mine is, first off, they have the confidence to take care of themselves and take care of a woman if they're with that woman. And it's just something that I think all men have a warrior within them, and women are naturally attracted to warriors, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think they are. Someone who can protect them as well as provide for them. And one of you said earlier too, there's two sides, the protection, the alpha seed, and then there's a provision part. A man who can fight more than likely can do both, because he's faced adversity, he's faced fear, he can accept challenges as they come, not only in the ring but in life, because as you guys know, every day, if you're trying to be more, if you're trying to level up, there's a challenge every day. Few of my days go the way I plan them. Can I accept the adversity that arises, the challenges that arise without falling to pieces and becoming emotional? That's what a woman wants. Women are more attracted. I mean, yeah, your body or good looks will get you in the door, but when they see the inner man, that's what they're really attracted to, because that's the part of the man that's really going to give them either the alpha seed or the beta need, or to provide them with that type of man they're really looking for. And that's all rounded out by everything that you do. And as I say, the more challenges and adversity, and nowadays we have to seek those out because we live in such a comfortable, safe society where everyone is protected. Well, I mean, some places no, but in general, more so than ever in the history of man, we're protected, and women are provided for without the direct need of a man. But men have created that. Men have created this where women think they don't need men. I'm getting way off base there, but yeah, it's important to pass that on. And one of y'all Andre was talking about how the women are wanting him to teach the boys to be men. Yeah, it's a sad state of the nation out there, because I see my son's friends and they're clueless. They have no idea what hypergamy is or how to manage those things, or they don't know. So yeah, they learn by example and of course by what you tell them, but it has to be congruent.
Thor, what would you say? Oh, go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, I just want to add what you said. You were looking for a metaphor, and it was developed out of the the warrior warrior class in Japan, and then also the emperor of Japan, and that was the philosophy, and that is kanai, constant and never-ending improvement. And that's something that when I got into it, I was like every day. So when I broke through my plateaus, where I know people I took classes with in 1991 and 92, and even though it's been 30 years now, or 32, whatever, those people are only with 32 years, they actually have 1 or 2 years of actual experience of growth. And I live by that. When I heard that in an old book, a self-help book in 1990, man, that was the thing. One of these that's the reason why I said one of the other. I try to study 6 to 5 hours a day in what I do every day. And if I need to go to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, that's how I get my 6 hours every single day. So kanai, constant, never-ending improvement.
I thought you were going to tell the one about better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in a war. I think that's a good one too.
It is.
Yeah, that's great.
I never heard that one. I love that.
Well, come on, Huds. That's part of creating a dominant masculine presence course.
I just like my gardening. I don't know.
You can still be a warrior.
Yeah, shoot.
You got to be the warrior with them squashes. Got to be a warrior with them squashes.
You can be. Especially once you get them past a pound. When they're past a pound, really can do damage.
I guess the easy answer for guys, if they're having struggle with women's hypergamy, is that first they have to realize they're probably struggling with frame. And once they're struggling with frame and they acknowledge that, then they have to realize that they're struggling also with game, muscles, money, and I said it all right. Game, muscles, money, frame.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's be honest with how they arrive at their first understanding of hypergamy.
Yeah.
Most likely, in all probabilities, a man will understand this by only a couple of ways, and that's either to watch his mother monkey branch out of a marriage or watch one of his girlfriends or wife monkey branch out on him. Then it strikes him right in the face. Otherwise, it's easy to look away because here's the thing: beta game works, white knight game, at least it's something. Once they find something that works one time, even if it's the crappiest results ever, what do you guys do? They stick with it. And this is not common knowledge. I mean, in our sphere, it seems like it's very common. But if you just type in hypergamy doesn't exist on Google, and it's probably 10 times the amount of hits that you get on just, hypergamy. What is it? It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's scientifically disproven in humans, things like that. And yet, you could see the DNA results, and it's pretty amazing. There's a lot of, logical fallacies used to say that it doesn't exist. And it's usually done by, the white knights, the male feminists, all that sort of thing, because it's a harsh reality. I mean, I've met women, Glenn, and I think you might have too, that they don't know anything about hypergamy, and they had a good relationship with a man for several years. And the next thing they know, something happened and they're with this other guy, and shit's falling apart. And the guy asks him, man, we had a great relationship. What the hell's going on? And she goes, I don't know what just happened. And I believe they actually believe that, but they're following their program. This is a huge thing. Look what happens to good relationships that aren't, that you don't maintain that your burden of performance in a couple of years after the kids and they wean. Her interest goes away. That's where you have your work to do. And statistically, we could see it with divorce rates. And when they happen, that's almost regular at regular intervals, certain times. We've all heard the 7-year itch, right? So yeah.
Well, isn't the 7-year itch more for men? I mean, I believe Rollo points out that women start losing interest 2 to 3 years into the relationship.
Well,
when their sexual desire
first identified, it was from a movie. It just, yeah, and it was based. It's actually a movie, and it's based on the man, right? Exactly, because that's the common model he's trading out, right? And but yeah, statistically, it's every 2 to 3 years. Every 2 to 3 years, just enough time to put one in the oven and get them weaned, and then it's time to find the next set of DNA. Not to be harsh, but that variety gives your offspring a really good survival chance. Survival the strongest, right? At its core level, may not, and it feels really bad. Some of these girls don't want that. They would love to just have some security because that's what they want. That's what they have with their little girls, someone protecting them. That's it. That's all I want. And then that little hypergamic bug sneaks in there and it takes over. It's strong. I mean, think of it for a minute, Glenn. Think of the hormones and the instincts that has to go on. Here is this being that's a quarter of our strength in this harsh world, right? And she is built to have these children. It's expensive on her body, makes her vulnerable to predators completely. And somehow she's got to be able to use her emotions or instincts in order to breed successfully and protect those children and get them weaned and still get herself resources. Next to impossible without a man, except today in modern society. And we don't even know what the end result of that's going to be.
Now, here's a question. A woman, if you're not being leveling up, if you're not becoming the best version of yourself, it's safe to say then, right, fellas, that she will lose respect for you.
Yeah.
And we all know that I've said this before, that the two things that women must have in a relationship for her partner is respect and submission. But if she can't respect you, she's not going to be able to submit to you. If you're not leveling up and becoming the best version of yourself constantly, she's not going to continue to respect you, and she's not going to be willing to submit to you. So in order to avoid that from happening, leveling up for men is crucial. It is the foundation to avoid hypergamy in the negative. Would you guys
But
agree?
if you're not leveling up, then you're disrespecting yourself. Then what the hell are you doing here if you're not doing something? Look at the guys that go to work at the same job every day for 40 years and they don't enjoy it. They're just waiting for that retirement. Who wouldn't get, what woman wouldn't get bored with a man like that? I mean, nothing against, if you like that, that's fine, but that's not a guy who's making the most out of his life. If he's just waiting for that retirement and that watch and he's going to travel, he's going to do this. When this happens, he's always going to wait for that. He's always someday I'll. You've heard that, someday I'll. Everybody's going to go to someday I'll. Yeah, when the kids graduate, when I pay that house off, when I retire, then I'm going to do all this. What the hell is that? He's not living in the present moment. He's wasting his life.
If I can, Mark, what you told me, I was in the DECA program in high school, and that's where you got to leave your senior year and go to a job at 12 o'clock, or at least that's what it is in Texas. And I remember this guy who was portfolio manager came in telling us about IRAs. He said, imagine, boys and girls, you can work at the same job for 40 years and then retire. I thought that was hell. I mean, that is HELL. I was like, just kill me now. I was like, no, I want the adventure. I was like, no way. I said, when I graduated, I left high school. I left my house 2 days after graduating from high school, and I drove across the country. I just went straight for the adventure. And I was like, and Mark, thanks for saying that, because I was like, that's hell. I said, I don't care if I have 1,000 careers. I'm going to have a good life.
Yeah, women don't want to be the adventure. They want to be part of the adventure. They want to come along with a man who has an adventure. School trains us, in my opinion, to go to work for the man. They got the bells when it starts, the bell to leave class, the bell. That's a programming effect, which after a period of years, and what are they telling you? You don't get that high school education, you won't get a good job. Hell, I quit high school. My dad quit high school. I make more than the teachers, probably more than the superintendent. I'm not sure what he makes. But anyway, I'm in six figures. But I didn't get that from school, but I believe in education. But this is about leveling up. A woman wants a man who's doing something with himself, who's taking care of himself. A lack of self-respect is a lack of taking care of yourself also. You eat junk food 3 or 4 times a day. You have a steady diet of that. You're filling your mind with 4 or 5 hours of TV every night. The average American watches 4 to 6 hours of TV every night. You want to be average? Do what average people do. You want what other people don't have, then do what other people aren't willing to do.
Let me tie that into what Phil said earlier about he said exactly the alpha male inside of us is beaten out of you or out of us.
Yeah.
And what this is this goes to what I would say when the Prussian schooling system was brought here in 1901 by the industrialists. And our schooling system is based on the father of experimental psychology. I forget his name. And what it is that Johnny and Jane, to be educated to the point to take orders and to become soldiers and to become workers. That's it. It's not about thinking. They left the trivium, the quadrivium, the classic way that the Europeans taught school. And that's why when people say, why do I feel like a slave? Really? Do I got to go through this? And so, Phil, that's where I want to tie what Mark said about the education, what Phil said earlier. Yes, you are made to be, you are incredible women. You read the papers going back 130 years ago, women were women and men were men, because guess what? You had to be. Your churches taught you, whatever your religion was across the world, it was done that. So, Phil, thank you for saying that. And I want to tie that with Mark just said, and to go exactly what Phil said. And Phil, maybe you could say something, and Glenn, I'm not trying to take it up, but that's what my thing is. I'm against our schooling system, because the femininity and the masculinity is literally beaten out of us to make us slaves.
I got 2 questions for you. First, I want to give Andre this one with a chat from Juanita or Joanna. School teaches us how to be modern slavery. Only today, most companies want you for 30 years. Companies are hypergamous too. Would you guys say that's true?
What do you mean by hypergamous? What are you talking about?
No, they are, but not anymore. What they're saying, and this is interesting, and I know I want to get to hypergamy within men at some point as well. But what she's saying, like, they're hypergamous and they're always trying to level up and getting the best. But right now, I know at least for me, with the industry that I work in, most of us are pretty indispensable, and they don't want to go ahead and try and hire somebody else because it's either too expensive or that person is not going to have the same skill set that they already have. So they are definitely hypergamous when they have the power. But with the current economy and everything else going on, that's becoming a little different at the moment.
And my next question is
I'm
for
really
Phil.
taking over. The slave mind guys, nobody's immune to. Nobody's immune to this. That's how deep it goes.
Yeah. And the next question I want to throw to Phil. This is a comment from Coco.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was going to actually say I was going to chime in on that. I'm glad she brought that. You want me to read it?
Go ahead and read it.
When a man is leveling up, if he has a good woman, and notice what she says right there. If he has a good woman, she's going to try to level herself up alongside him as well to match him, so their empire continues to grow. That's the point right there. Is she a good woman? And there's bad men and there's bad women. I'm not just I love women, so don't get me wrong with this. What I'm about to say. A lot of guys in this space that start understanding after they go through the traumas and pain that they go through and find it, they find themselves with damaged individuals.
Yep.
And he starts to look at himself in the mirror and he goes, okay, so I've sorted the job. Okay, I've got the side hustle going. I got the little extra income done. I've cleared the credit cards. We got a little financial breathing room. I've lost 30 pounds. I can see the top 4 abs now. You know, I've updated my wardrobe. I look a little bit better when I don't look like a disheveled homeless person anymore. I've actually got clothes on. I've made meaningful connections with other men that are doing something with their lives. Why isn't she fucking me? Why isn't she respecting me? Why isn't she growing with me? And I want to say something. When we start to develop as men, we create these gaps with people in our life. Okay. And here's the deal. They're responsible to close those gaps and meet you where your growth goes. 9 times out of 10, if a dude's a beta or he's been in a traumatic situation with a woman, she's already pretty much said, okay, that's that. She 9 times out of 10 will not grow with him. Okay. In my experience in seeing, and I've worked with a lot of different men, whether it's physicality, their mentalities, taking the pistol out of their mouth because she friggin' is at the bar with somebody else. The moral of the story is damaged human beings. And that is like a fire statement. If he has a good woman. So guys, if you're ticking all these boxes and you are correcting yourself and starting to understand what we're talking about when it comes to hypergamy, and okay, I need to be the best version of myself to get the attention I want from the women I want. If you have a woman in your life and she's not a good woman, or if she's damaged, and we could go through there could be a whole like five show series on damaged human beings.
Yeah.
Then you are going to see that. Okay. And that's where you're going to have to start making those tough decisions. And that's the point is, okay, do you retard your growth? Do you stall your growth out? And you continue to make that gap, and that gap isn't closed by your partner, whoever that might be, if it's a girlfriend, long-term relationship, or marriage. You really need to start looking at yourself and saying, okay, am I selling myself short, letting this human being ride to the top with me when they aren't invested in me like I'm invested in this? I've invested in myself, which has in turn benefited this relationship, which has in turn benefited our home. Every aspect of my life has improved, and I'm still getting the same disrespect. I'm still not getting fucked. I'm still not getting what I should duly deserve. Okay. If you really truly are ticking those boxes, you're going to have some tough conversations. And that's the thing, right? Is these guys, they work hard, they work hard, they work hard. They straighten themselves out. They kick ass at life only to be sucked back down by a bad woman. Excellent point, Coco.
Yeah. I don't
Can
think she
I
can.
jump in here? I got some really important to add here, Phil, because that generally I think is true. However, I'm gonna throw a little bit of cold water here.
I love the cold water. You guys always throw it on me. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Well, let's address a couple of things here. So when you say a good woman, I love women. They're all good.
Yes.
They're women are just women. And one of the beautiful things about hypergamy is that, you know, it feeds a woman's solipsism and the fact that she will mirror the most desirable dominant man in her vicinity. And there's a reason for that. That's built in to her firmware. So they will, if you're on your improvement path, they will tend to mirror you and support it. However, when you are always leveling up, there are some risks. And why is there risk? It is because of hypergamy, and you need to be aware of it. Because women, they lose patience. They want to wait at the finish line and they want to fuck the winners, guys. So if you're in the middle of constantly improving, there is a point that every woman's going to say, I don't want to wait for this. You need to be aware for it because it happens to everybody. You're leveling up constantly, and they don't know, they're concerned about themselves, and they want to be a part of your ship and move forward. They don't know what rate you're moving forward. It's happened to me in a most solid of long-term relationships. Thor, you're doing YouTube too much. You're on there with those guys. I don't understand it. I need some time. I do everything you want. I am the most malleable, mirroring, loving wife ever you could have. And she's right. But she didn't see this as any value. Let me tell you something. She changed her tune on that rather rapidly when she met some of these people and the quality that's in our sphere. And considering what happened to her, yeah, she'll tell those hey, you know what? Suck it up. Get some patience. The guy's leveling up, get some patience. You don't need to wait at the finish line. If you can start with that guy that's going to be that world champion, stick with him. It's okay. Sometimes you just need to suck it up and do that. But the drive for her is I want to win. I don't want to wait around for all the hard work. They're not built for that. We are. Anyway, there is risks that you need to be aware of. You need to be leveling up all the time. She's going to mirror you, but at certain points, she's going to say, well, this is taking too long. And I think we could probably all draw on that from examples of relationships we have with women in the past. And this is the way it is. It's their nature. It's part of it. He's taking too long. Maybe I need to find another one. And they won't say that or express it, but that's what it is. And women are wonderful. They're beautiful. They all have the same firmware essentially and similarities. But then, of course, there is varieties that is layered in on top of that.
And that kind of goes with Joanna's comment here. For lack of better terms, women are children in the eyes of God. Children are the most impatient, and God still loves her.
I'll tell you what, I lose patience with myself too. I can really appreciate that. But yeah, I do. I think that's an excellent comment, and it's true.
And it's so what I wanted to bring up now is how can are guys hypergamous? And are they hypergamous? I mean, it's safe to say the guys are not hypergamous like women are hypergamous.
No.
But could guys be hypergamous? Huds?
Oh yeah. I mean, do you want to talk about guy to guy relationships or guy to women? Because I can start with guy to women.
Let's hear that first. You think guys could be hypergamous when it comes to women?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love my girl to death, but does she have the best body in the world? No. Does she have the biggest tits in the world? No. Does she have the biggest ass in the world? No. So when I see some of those things and some of those things creep up, that temptation is there. That temptation to level up, at least in that certain aspect. So it definitely 100%. Yeah, no, for sure.
But is that really hypergamy or is that lust?
I think it's lust.
And the reason why I say that is because according to the definition of hypergamy is that you should be dating up then, not below you. And if you're saying your woman doesn't have all those things and you are a quality guy that maybe deserves those things or can attract those things, then are you dating down? And if you're dating down, then are you really hypergamous? Is the question.
That's an interesting one. I know we talk about this a lot in the space where guys are comfortable dating down. Like guys always date down and women date up. Because I don't necessarily move on some of those lustful feelings. So it's a really good point. So I guess you could say that men are not so much when it comes to their relationships with women. I know when we're talking about the best, when I was talking about like man to man, like friendships, There's a reason why I've left almost every single friend that I had from high school, almost every single friend that I had in college, because you want to be surrounded by the absolute best, and so you're swapping in and out your friends as you continue going on. What are you laughing at? I just got distracted by you.
Sorry about that, Ben. You're muted, but it's really a false equivalency to say men are hypergamist. This is something that's coming on big and strong in white pill and purple pill community. When you think about it, women do date equally and up. They prefer the up. Men, the evidence is everywhere, and it's easy to debunk that men are hypergamous by just the thirst and where the money goes right now.
Now, here's a question: can men be hypergamous with their friends?
Like, in what sense? Because
in this sense,
sexual strategy.
And then, I'm not talking about sexual strategy here. I'm in a panel with a bunch of fucking leveled ass men that are top tier in my category. So I surround myself with you guys. I go an hour and a half away to go hang out with Thor, the O-Father, because he is a guy that I aspire to want to be on that level, right? And I could choose to hang out with Joe Blow, who's crackhead, but I don't want to. I want to level up. So is that a sense of hypergamy when it comes to men?
I think so, and I want some other people to think about it, because, like, by definition, like, when you think of the whole idea of like what hypergamy really is, I believe that is.
I see it as mentorship more than hypergamy, because hypergamy to me is exclusive to sexual strategy. That's how it's defined. It's how it's defined in nature, actually. Now, mentorship, brotherhood, paying it forward. I mean, a man's friends, which we'll do a whole show on this, but a man can get a brotherhood that is so strong and bonded. You've been in the military, Glenn. You fought and died with men. I have worked and died with men. Some of those bonds are strong enough to drop just about everything for, including a mate, and run to the battlefield to rescue your brothers, or even just be with them. That's a different thing, man. That comes from our ancient past when we're out there on the hunt and one of us got gored by a freaking wild boar, even though we know it's probably the end, we're going to sit there because but for God, there go I, right? Men understand this at a different level. Men have friends at a very different level than women do. They don't have the same loyalty. They say they will, and they'll fight to the end. But when it comes down to the bullets, who jumps in front? Your brothers do. I fight for the man standing next to me, right? So I see that as a very different thing. Hypergamy is an excellent way to describe. It's kind of a container word to describe sexual strategy, and in particularly in a woman, and because it includes statuses, sexual market value, and it really is a good placeholder to understand that women have a dual nature when it comes to mating and security, right? And it's very successful for them, and has been for a very long time. I mean, look at most of our nature has been polygamous. The toughest of the group had a few mates, and because they survived, he was strong enough to do that, and they worked together, and that's okay. Why do you think that women will gladly share a top man right now? They will, and they'll do it. It's part of our nature. Is it something you want to advertise? Most don't. They'd really like to have them to themselves. And by the way, there's a lot of societal benefits to having one man, one woman. Huge. Just being honest here, there is, but we still have our nature inside of us. But I think it's just different, Glenn. I do. I don't see men as being hypergamist really in any way. We have a different strategy. Yeah, we want to throw our seed everywhere. It's what we're built to do because we're disposable. So that is not hypergamy. If you go long enough on a long, lonely dirt road, yeah, you want to pee in the biggest, nicest hotel with the gold fixtures and all that, but you'll pull into that dirty little gas station and take a leak there too, right? When the time comes to take a leak, you got to take a leak.
Yeah, it depends if I get staff. I might just pee outside.
Whale wars have begun.
The whale wars?
No whale wars. I am too shallow for that. You guys saw your guys' birthdays gifts, okay?
She's a big girl,
You
man.
guys are savages, man. My fellow Vikings. You
So-
know, Vikings were the ultimate in whale warriors. I mean, we took down more belugas than anybody else.
That's what I'm talking about. I don't understand why this is so difficult for everybody to comprehend.
We had the nastiest harpoons and ropes, guys. I mean, come on. We invented
The
explosive
Beluga Wars.
harpoons.
The Beluga Wars. It's blue. The orcas. Ride the orca, baby.
Hey, the way the West is headed, only us Vikings will survive because the amount of whales we're going to have to take down.
You know, it's funny. We brought that was in a podcast last night. We're talking about, you know, people getting fat and like fat acceptance and like Victoria's Secret having fat lingerie and stuff. Now, if hypergamy is that women want to date up, they don't have an incentive so much, do they, as men do, to level up? Because they just are, right? Because women just are, men have to become. So do you think in that sense, hypergamy is women's enemy because men are constantly leveling up? So men are going to want, you know, the top tier women because they have leveled up to that point where like, hey, I'm a top tier guy. I want a woman that compliments me. But if society is pushing this fat narrative where, you know, we have fat lingerie and fat models and that's okay, and we have to love them as there is, then in a sense, in a way, hypergamy is a downfall for women more than it is a benefit.
In modern society.
Yes, in modern society.
Yes, but the saving grace is they still want the ring once they get through with the alpha seed. They've just been sold a bill of goods, you know.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where those types of women, they end up single and childless, and they're just kind of getting weeded out of the population. They just don't realize it.
Well, it's also like, you know, we hear a lot of podcasts and stuff that we hear. Men need to level up. Men need to do better. Men just need to become better. And I'm like, good. I'm all for men leveling up and becoming better. But ladies, if you don't level yourself up as well, you're still going to be just as lonely and single because guys are not going to want to settle for something that low. Although they don't necessarily have a low threshold, but they're not going to want a big Bertha if they're looking like Phil. Okay.
Yeah. Can I
Oh, the
comment?
tip of that iceberg is sticking just barely out of the water right now, guys. Sorry, Mark. Look what Kevin Samuels did. Hated because he pointed that out to the ladies, right? You need to change this if you want to get what you want. And ultimately, deep down, they wanted that ring. Absolutely. And
Don Levon, you're a fool. You know better.
Ultimately, they did. But now look at once that idea sunk in for a minute. Look what Just Pearly Things is doing. A lot of the same things. Pearl is doing the same things with women that Kevin Samuels did, and she's exploding. Not just her. And of course, in the overall scheme of things, this is very small because this is an unpopular thing to say that women have to accept, so to speak, what men want. And to fulfill their needs, they're going to have to adjust to it. But at a certain point, they're impatient children. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but in the Bible, they are, right? They're like children, and they're going to learn to get what they want. They're going to have to adjust. I think they will, but it'll be a slow process. But that's so cool that you'd think that way, that they don't ever want to. And right now, I think the popular culture is that it should be us. And in some ways, I actually agree. It should be us because we, as men, allowed it to get this far. Seriously, you know, we were good, soft men. We want to be right. We didn't hold the line when the time came to hold the line and say, no, we're not going down that road. And sometimes as a man, you have to do that. And your kids are crying in the back and the wife's pissed off at you. You're going to be in the doghouse. Nope, right. Going down that road. And then you come to find out, guess what? That road had a bridge out. We could all died there. That shit's real. And so, you know, some of our forefathers went down that road.
Can I tie that in? I'm curious because I really want to get what Thor just said and tie down the work ethic and leveling up. I really want to get because I know Phil is working with guys in his community is about guys leveling up and really working out the body and mindset. And then Mark, where you know your sons are younger, and you seeing that. Could you two guys go on that? Like guys leveling up, being younger, and then because you guys have two different perspectives. I'd like you really guys to weigh on and talk. I'm just kind of curious what both you guys have to say on what Thor just said.
Yeah, you want me to go first? I mean,
Yeah,
I can do
go
that
ahead.
for you. So most of the guys that I work with, I'll be honest with you, they're middle-aged dudes, okay? And so, what I'm saying middle-aged is, 35 and up, okay? And, one of the most notable clients that we just finished up with him, we knocked 86 pounds off of this man in 16 months,
Wow.
okay? Optimized him, improved his mindset, got him reading some particular books. He met me at the CME conference last year in Las Vegas, and that's how he came across me. As his mindset started to develop and understanding, how things really were, he literally, he continued to lose the weight, he changed his job. He realized his job was bringing him down, quit that. And then he started to have a little bit more of an abundance mentality. Okay. He started to have more discipline about himself. And the interesting thing is when he was at about 45 to 50 pounds in, before he lost the last 16 of those pounds, he's like, when I go out now, I notice that I'm the best looking dude everywhere I go. And I'm like, beautiful, man. He goes, I'm starting to get interest from women. He goes, women that I would have never even approached before are showing interest in me. And he continued to lose and he continued to lose and he got ripped up. And it was a great thing to see, but it's amazing because the simple fact is this is a middle-aged man that's primarily lived a very quiet life. He's been married and divorced before, so he's been through some trauma. Okay. And the interesting thing with that is now that he has went through this whole life transformation over the last year and a half, he is totally noticing that abundance mentality, right? His mindset is completely different than where he was. One of the big things is he always said sorry when I started working. I said, quit saying that word. Literally every little piece of him we worked on. And the complete package now, he's just a complete friggin' savage, man. It's the most impressive thing to see because here's the thing, he committed to it and stuck with it all the way. And it was one of the hardest things he said. He said it is the hardest thing he's ever done in his whole life. And that's the point of it, right? Is now he's starting to notice that people that he would have never even thought of, okay, dreamed of, are giving him attention, showing him respect. He has that presence now wherever he goes. When he walks into a room, he takes up oxygen, and that's the big thing. And I wanted to circle really quick, just to talk back real quick before we move forward with Mark. Women definitely will sabotage your growth, gents, because if she doesn't want to grow with you, she will sabotage that. I'm telling you, she likes you comfortable and in that box because you're controllable. And that's what she's been taught through society. Okay. I'm not just debunking the hypergamy thing and her ability to exercise other options because she's bored of you or not attracted to you anymore. I'm just saying that women have that ability and they exercise that because I see that on the daily with a lot of my clients. Mark?
Okay. I want to reiterate some of what you said there and we talked about earlier. Anybody who can't grow with you can't go with you. It's very difficult to drag someone to the top if they're hanging onto your coattails. So that is you just can't do it if they're not going to go along. As far as helping younger people to level up, I find they're much easier to help because they're more malleable. A lot of times, like what Phil did with that man is a great witness to what he can do with people, because older people sometimes are so set in their ways. I'm talking older, 40 years old. They don't like it, but they're comfortable with the misery. And they really have to hit some spot like a divorce or losing their kids or something to make them want to level up. And back up to what we said about Kevin Samuels, these women leveling up, when you tell a woman she needs to level up, she thinks in the modern Western society, well, I got to get an education. I got to get a good job. I got to make six figures. And like Kevin said, this one lady, you're describing a man. He asked her what she had to offer a man. She was describing the traits of a man. In our Western society, that's the way it is. You go to other countries, those women still understand the value of femininity, beauty, and appearance, and how the comfort they can bring to a man, how to stroke a man's ego. They've forgotten that here. Women here, in general, most of them, don't know how to respect a man. So for me, I level up for myself and recommend other people do the same, but I'm not leveling up for these women here in the States because most of them, I mean, once you experience something out here, and I've been married and dated many women here in the States and dated and been married to women out of the country. And the women out of the country are more like the women were here 50 years ago. Thor remembers how they used to be. They used to respect men. They didn't look at men as their equal in the eyes of God, but not equal in physicalness and the abilities. They're just not the same as we are. They're different. We each have our place. I know what my place is, but most of the women in the U.S. and the West have forgotten their place. So a man needs to level up for himself, respect himself. Then he will find, like that man did, Phil talked about, people start looking at you differently because you are different. You're different inside, reflects itself on the outside, and people out there treat you as such, the way you feel about yourself.
You know what? That brought up a point. I want to see if you guys believe this. Feminism has ruined women when it comes to hypergamy, because feminism has pushed masculine women to be these boss bitches, right? To when women start describing themselves on the first date, as Mark just mentioned, they describe themselves as a man would.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do this. I do this. I do that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all like it's so. In a way, feminism has sabotaged women's hypergamous nature because they're making them more masculine, but hypergamy is essentially a woman acting out in her femininity. So when you have the two conflicting, concepts here of feminism and hypergamous nature, then you get the women that are 40 years old, 50 years old, single, no kids, they have 7 cats, and they're wondering where their knight in shining armor is because they have done everything right according to what men should do, but not according to what women should do. Do you guys agree with that? Would you say feminism is conflicts with women's hypergamy?
They live the life by the program, by the agenda that they got from, the West, the societal agenda.
Agreed.
All right, guys. So we're about an hour and 27 minutes in. Thor, this is your show. I don't even know why I'm leading it, but
You're doing a good job. Just do it.
This is about the time where we start wrapping up. Unless if we have anything else to add to how hypergamy is your ally. Is there anything else that you guys want to add, or you just recap it real quick?
Yeah,
Phil, go ahead. Phil, go ahead.
I want to throw one more thing on top of this. Like this is like the whipped cream and the cherries, man. Right here, this is the topper of it. Instead of crying about hypergamy, utilize it and understand it. It's real simple here, man. If you're not happy with where you're at in your life, don't expect a woman that's above you in status, whether it's sexual market value or whatever, to look at you. Correct that first, and she's just going to come to you, man. She's going to fall into you. It's real simple. The thing is most men, they don't want to put that work in. They don't want to have that discipline. They don't want to take the steps that it takes to get to that position. It's kind of like when Huds was asked, about the big tits and all that stuff, and he kind of had to sit there and think for a second. Yeah, he could exercise those options if he chose to, but he doesn't. The moral of the story is, if he wanted it, he could have it. That's the difference. He has put himself in a position to where he has options. Women aren't the problem. Weak men and dudes that are just completely complacent and happy with the way they are in their current situation are the problem. Utilize hypergamy as a tool. Seriously. And if it's all about just getting the hot chick, it's not an issue. If you're on point and you're ticking all the boxes, bro, they're going to fall right into your lap. You don't have to do shit.
It's funny. Last night we were talking on Jen's show, and she said good-looking guys have talked themselves out of getting laid.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's like the hypergamous nature is like, yeah, I want to bang this guy, but as soon as he starts running his mouth, he gets less and less sexually appealing. And Phil, you're right. Sometimes if you're doing everything, you're leveling yourself up, and you're that guy, it will fall in your lap. You don't got to do anything. So don't sabotage yourself. But But let's go ahead and wrap this up. Thor, this is your show. I'm gonna leave you to the end. Huds, what you got going on?
So we had a slight delay. Something came up this week, but Andre and I are launching our course, and so that course launch is going to be something fantastic. Combining like how to navigate this current dating landscape. So essentially, I'm going to be bringing the technicals of how to do texting, dating apps, things like that, even just cold approach once you get the number, what to do. And then Andre is going to be doing the mindset behind it and help you on your hero's journey to get you to the point where you get to be selective and you get to have any type of woman that you want and you get to have a good woman. So it's going to be absolutely fantastic. This is going to be coming in about 2 weeks. We're going to do multiple promotional streams as well as we'll announce it on here. Outside of that, if you're looking for individual consults, reach me at the Hudsman. So that's at TheHudsman on Instagram. Or you can even go to my website for booking, thehudsman.com.
Phil, what you got going on?
It's just the same, man. Steadily making bits and pieces towards my end goal here. And you can find me at philfosterfitness.com. I've got the training app, for online clients. I do train in person if you're here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You can find me on the socials. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Phil Foster @PhilFoster_. You can find me over on the Growthcast on YouTube at Phil Foster. It's real simple to find me over there. Obviously, if you're watching the stream, we're casting to my channel and all these other gentlemen's channels through Thor's channel, which is pretty sweet that we can do that. If you're looking to get your hormones dialed in, if you're looking to level yourself up, get your physicality on point, to get your mentality to, because here's the deal, man. If your physicality is on point, your mentality is going to follow 9 times out of 10. I don't care what you've been through. We can sort it. I got a men's community that we can work things out with and bounce things off with the group. So just hit me up if you're interested in fitness or hormones or supplements or whatever you want to go. And Thor, it's good to see you here today, man. Thanks for having me on.
Mr. Mark Daniels.
Yeah, you can check me out on Instagram at Mark's Inspiration, YouTube, Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. I got the 2 books on Amazon. I got a 3rd book I'm writing, but I got to go out of the country to write. I can't get anything done here. So hopefully next time I leave, which maybe be next week, I may go, I don't know where I'm going to go, down south somewhere. I can finish that book up and get it out on Amazon and be available to you. Check me out at my website at marksinspiration.com. We're redoing that. Still waiting for my first, we set the merch up. I ordered it, hasn't got here yet. So I want to make sure everything's okay there before I put that out there. So I don't know what's going on there. Lost in the world of the internet, I suppose. And I do consultations on my website, as I said, marksinspiration.com. If you need some help there in business, fitness, travel, relationships, or family. Had experience with both of them. That's about it for us.
Andre, Mr. NLP.
Yeah, I use NLP and hypnosis to get guys over their approach anxiety, have better lives, break through their boundaries and their barriers. The product that me and Huds on texting, there is a section in there, you guys. If you want to get over your approach anxiety through texting or cold approach or whatever approach you want to call it, that is going to be one of the key ingredients to the hero's journey to really become the real knight, the real savage, the real Viking, to get everything you want in life, to break through every single plateau in your life. Buy from Glenn, buy from Huds, buy from Phil, buy from Mark. Thor, our master, our alpha, you're up, brother.
Well, look at this crew, man. You guys are pulling on all the oars and the sails are set. Remember this show, Glenn. Fantastic freaking job, man. You are definitely in the lead, and glad to have you in the lead anytime. This is wonderful. Look forward to what you and I are going to do and the rest of the team as well. The motto here is that a rising tide lifts all boats, and we are that rising tide. Come and join us on the DragonShip. I have one more thing. I want to comment on this. So we talked about hypergamy, and part of hypergamy where guys really fail at this is they develop something when they get into a relationship called one-itis, and they fail to see hypergamy. So, you have to have a defense against one-itis. So, in my opinion, the second best defense against one-itis, if you don't know what one-itis is, it's where you have put all of your sexual energy, your reproductive energy into one bet, and that's the bet of one woman. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying when you do that to the exclusion of your own mental well-being. That is a bad thing. Many men have killed themselves and killed other men because of this. Straight up, you can read about it every day. The second best defense for this is understanding hypergamy. The first best defense is having other options for sexual reproduction. Doesn't mean you're exercising them, but to have them. Couple that with a full understanding of hypergamy. That's why it's your ally. It prevents you from developing that one-itis to the point where you're mentally incapable of surviving a breakup. And that's really tough. You have no real advantages in a breakup today at all. It's hard. It's worse than the death. The legal ramifications today are insane. There is no court that will say you're innocent until proven guilty today. In these circumstances, it is you're always guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And that's because it's family court. It's not in regular court. There is a difference. So second best defense to that one-itis is understanding hypergamy. And that's the best ally for it, best tool. I like that stuff. You know, having tools in your toolkit makes your life much more easy. The human tool users that we are. Glenn?
All right. For me, I'm going to say this. Stay tuned for a couple things. Me and Huds got a couple of streams we're going to be shooting out to you guys this week. One is on don't be the safe guy, be the good guy. Okay. Safe guys are bad. Nice guys are bad. And stay tuned to what me and Thor got going on. We are going to be talking about the rite of passages soon. And I don't know, not sure how soon we're going to do that. But we're going to be.
I'll talk to you about when you're available, and I'll put you up as one of the interviews for the very next one. How about that?
That sounds good. But those are going to be some very fire streams. You guys like this channel, like the video, subscribe. All right.
Let me close it out.
You do the thing. You do the thing.
I'll do the thing, guys. Skull.